Have you ever wondered what would happen if aliens discovered our early internet websites 1,000 years from now? They'd probably think we were obsessed with dancing babies, spinning skull gifs, and websites that played MIDI versions of popular songs automatically. Welcome back to Deo Digital, where we dig deep into the digital archaeology that shaped our online world. Today, we're literally unboxing the internet, but not the sleek algorithm-driven web you know today. We're talking about Web 1.0, the Wild West of cyberspace, where Comic Sans was considered cutting-edge typography, and having a visitor counter was the ultimate flex. These early websites have become genuine vintage artifacts, and honestly, they're more fascinating than any dusty antique you'd find in your grandmother's attic. But here's what blows my mind, and this is something most people never realize. The internet we use every day is built on top of these digital fossils. Every click, every scroll, every like button exists because someone in 1995 thought it would be cool to make text blink incessantly. The DNA of modern web design can be traced back to these beautifully broken early experiments. Let's start our archaeological expedition with the crown jewel of Web 1.0 preservation. Space Jam's official website from 1996 is still live, completely unchanged, sitting there like a time capsule waiting to transport you back to an era when Michael Jordan meeting cartoon characters was the pinnacle of digital marketing. This site is essentially the internet's equivalent of finding a perfectly preserved dinosaur in amber. The Space Jam website represents everything that made early internet magical and simultaneously terrible. Tables within tables for layout design, because CSS wasn't really a thing yet. Images that took forever to load on dial-up connections, creating this suspenseful anticipation that modern instant gratification has completely eliminated. And the navigation? Pure chaos organized by someone who clearly thought more was always better. But the real treasure trove of digital archaeology exists in the Wayback Machine, operated by the Internet Archive. This incredible resource has captured over 735 billion web pages since 1996, creating the most comprehensive museum of Internet history ever assembled. It's like having access to every newspaper, magazine, and television show that ever existed, except it's all websites that someone's nephew built in their basement. Here's where things get genuinely emotional, and this might hit you harder than you expect. Remember GeoCities, that free web hosting service where millions of people created their first websites, complete with construction GIF animations, and guest books where visitors could sign their virtual names? GeoCities neighborhoods were organized by themes, with areas like Hollywood for entertainment sites and Silicon Valley for tech enthusiasts. When Yahoo shut down GeoCities in 2009, they essentially demolished an entire digital civilization. Millions of personal websites, family pages, hobby sites, and creative expressions just vanished overnight. It would be like if someone decided to bulldoze every small town in America simultaneously. The cultural loss was staggering, and most people didn't even notice it happening. Fortunately, digital preservationists worked frantically to save as much GeoCities content as possible before the shutdown. The archive team, a group of rogue librarians and internet historians, managed to preserve terabytes of GeoCities data. They're the unsung heroes of digital archaeology, racing against time to save our collective online heritage. The aesthetic of Web 1.0 is having an unexpected renaissance among designers and developers who've grown tired of the sterile minimalism that dominates modern web design. There's something refreshingly honest about websites that weren't trying to manipulate your psychology or harvest your personal data. They were just passionate people sharing their interests with the world, however clumsily. Consider the technological constraints that shaped early websites. Developers were working with limited bandwidth, primitive browsers, and HTML that was essentially digital duct tape holding everything together. Creating a website required actual technical knowledge, not just dragging and dropping elements in a visual editor. Every animated GIF was a deliberate creative choice, not the result of an engagement optimization algorithm. The social dynamics of early internet communities were fundamentally different too. Web rings connected related websites in circular chains, creating organic discovery mechanisms that felt more like exploring a neighborhood than being fed content by an artificial intelligence. Forums and bulletin boards fostered deep, ongoing conversations rather than the ephemeral interactions that define social media today. Personal websites were digital expressions of individuality in ways that modern social media profiles can't replicate. Your GeoCities page or AngelFire site was entirely yours, customized down to the background music and cursor effects. There were no platform restrictions, no character limits, no algorithmic suppression of your content. You were the architect of your own corner of cyberspace. The technical artifacts of Web 1.0 tell fascinating stories about human creativity within constraints. Developers invented ingenious workarounds for browser limitations, creating elaborate table-based layouts that somehow functioned across different platforms. The infamous tag wasn't just annoying decoration, it represented pure joy at discovering you could make text move across a screen. Flash animations became the multimedia backbone of early internet creativity, enabling interactive experiences that seemed impossibly sophisticated at the time. Entire websites were built as single flash movies, complete with sound effects, animations, and navigation systems that felt more like video games than traditional web pages. Adobe's decision to discontinue Flash in 2020 essentially rendered thousands of these digital artworks inaccessible. The preservation challenges facing Web 1.0 content are more complex than saving physical artifacts. Digital files require specific software and hardware to access, creating layers of technological dependency that complicate long-term preservation. A website from 1995 might require an emulated version of Netscape Navigator running on a simulated Windows 95 environment just to display properly. Browser archaeology reveals how quickly internet standards evolved during the Web 1.0 era. Websites often included notices like Best Viewed in Internet Explorer 4.0 with 800xx 600 resolution, acknowledging the fragmented nature of early web browsing. These technical specifications now read like historical documents, providing insight into the technological landscape of different time periods. The cultural impact of these vintage websites extends beyond mere nostalgia. They represent a democratization of publishing that had never existed before in human history. Suddenly, anyone with internet access could become a publisher, sharing their thoughts, art, and obsessions with a global audience. The barriers between creators and consumers practically disappeared overnight. Educational institutions have begun recognizing Web 1.0 sites as legitimate historical artifacts worthy of academic study. Digital humanities scholars analyze early internet culture to understand how online communities formed, how information spread before search engines, and how digital identity evolved during the internet's infancy. The economic models of early internet were refreshingly simple compared to today's surveillance capitalism. Most websites existed purely for passion, education, or community building, rather than data harvesting and targeted advertising. The few commercial sites that existed were straightforward about their intentions, selling products rather than selling users to advertisers. Looking at these digital artifacts today reveals how much we've lost in our march toward technological sophistication. Yes, modern websites load faster, look more polished, and work seamlessly across devices. But they've also become increasingly homogenized, optimized for engagement rather than expression, designed by committees rather than individuals. The future of digital archaeology depends on continued preservation efforts and growing awareness of the Internet's cultural significance. Organizations like the Internet Archive need ongoing support to maintain their massive digital collections. We're essentially the digital equivalent of ancient civilizations, and future generations will judge us by the websites we choose to preserve. As we wrap up this journey through internet archaeology, remember that you're currently creating tomorrow's vintage artifacts. Every tweet, every blog post, every video you upload becomes part of the digital fossil record. The websites we build today will someday seem as quaint and charming as those blinking text animations we've been exploring. The early internet wasn't just a technological platform. It was a cultural movement that permanently changed how humans communicate, create, and connect with each other. These vintage websites aren't just curiosities. They're the foundation stones of the digital civilization we now inhabit. What early internet memories do you cherish most? Drop a comment sharing your favorite Web 1.0 experience. And don't forget to subscribe for more digital archaeology adventures. Until next time, keep exploring the fascinating evolution of our connected world.